let's get right into it. So I'm going to continue my discussion here on what I'm calling reflections, and I want to discuss, I want to take this further and talk about modal reflections, and how we might use them to coax out some new sounds, some new compositions, that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's recap. Basically, a tone, a reflection. Concept of a reflection is pretty straightforward. You know, if I'm in C and I play C, D, and E, if I wanted to play its reflection, I'm gonna go. I just to clarify the differences in sound, I'm gonna just go up an octave here and play that same sequence, those same intervals. I'm just gonna, instead of ascend, I'm gonna descend. Okay, so I'm gonna go a whole step. So I get this. So that's what I'm calling a reflection, okay? That idea that you're basically just applying the same like pattern of intervals for a scale or a chord or any motif, and you're reflecting it. I could do it off of the same root. That's the same thing. So I'm sharing the same. That has a very, together, that has a very whole tone kind of quality about it, right? You get this. Very whole tone sounding. When it's packaged together. And I don't really want to go into so much of like how we might blend these sounds together in this video. I want to talk about something. I want to look at the modes and how we can identify modal reflections and how we might use them. So in my usual tradition, I'm going to use C major here. And, I'm assuming most of you know, the major scale is just a series of intervals, a pattern of intervals. You get a whole half, a whole step, a whole step, a whole step, and a half step. I hope I got that right. Get C to D, that's a whole step. D to E, that's a whole step. Half step to the F, F to G, whole step. G to A, whole step. A to B, whole step. B to C is that half step. Okay, so we're going to take and use that same pattern and just descend, and what we get, it's interesting, if you know your modes, you'll recognize this pattern. So you get right. So we've gone down trust me that it's a perfect reflection of so you might recognize that pattern. That's the Phrygian mode. So the Phrygian mode is like a perfect reflection of the Ionian mode. Okay? They're mirror opposites of each other from a from a construction sequence, right? One's the reverse of the other. We've like spelled that. We've spelled that scale backwards. So I just played 2 octaves, played the C Ionian mode, and then in the second octave I played the Phrygian mode. So they don't actually sound that that they have some commonality. Obviously, they have a share. They have the same root. Obviously, they also have a shared 4 and 5, but everything else is different. So like the thirds are different, the seconds are different, the sevenths are different, the sixths are different. So what's interesting about that is that we can start to use this concept, maybe as I did in my previous videos. We can use this as like alternative like chord choices. We could come up to like kind of like move away from that Ionian mode, right? So for example, really simply, I might play, let's say I've got this 1, 2, 3, 5 idea, right? That same idea could be expressed in Phrygian like this, right? So I can start to kind of maybe use it as like a pivoting point, like see that line I just borrowed from Phrygian there. So I'm starting to incorporate Phrygian notes in places where I want to create like this momentary departure from that Ionian sound. And they're not that far apart. They're interesting. So the Ionian mode has this Phrygian partner, this pair, right? And what's interesting about this is that, well, if this is if this is mode 1, but then its reflection is mode 3, right? The Phrygian mode. Then I can kind of like if I played C sharp Lydian, which is just the mode right beside Phrygian, just a half step above Phrygian. I could maybe use that Lydian mode as a way to reflect off of this, or as a way to move in and out of this Ionian mode. So I get this Ionian mode to a maybe as a temporary departure to this, and I'm just playing kind of like I'm trying to make these scale sounds or these modal sound musical. I might do the same thing. I guess what I'm trying to impress upon you is that if I know that Phrygian mode is a reflection, I can play any of its like, brother and sister modes in their positions relative to that space. So if this can be Phrygian, right? Well, this could be Dorian. Right? To a we have that Dorian, right? Phrygian. So these are like kind of like unorthodox, passing tones, if you will. You got this C major to this Dorian sound. and so on and so on. Yeah, so that's the first one. So here's what's kind of crazy is that if you go through all the modes in the major scale, you'll actually find a pair. You'll find a related key through its reflection. Let me demonstrate with another example. If I play, let's play the Locrian mode here on B. Right? Locrian is the 7th mode there. You got a flat 2, a minor 3, a 4, flat 5, minor 6, minor 7, root. Well, if we find its reflection and just play that scale backwards, okay, we get a Lydian scale. See, it's just I'm basically playing Locrian upside down. I'm reflecting it, if you will, and I'm getting a Lydian sound. So that's interesting. Like, I can use Lydian or any of the modes like related to that Lydian, you know, as a pivoting point off of a Locrian mode. Okay. Let's look at, this is a really interesting one. Let's look at Dorian on D. It would be its natural position, right? You get, if you play Dorian in reverse, reflect it, you get Dorian. It's very interesting. It's, of all the modes, it's self-reflective. It's totally parallel. You know, like if you, the sequence of those intervals are totally symmetrical. And it's the only one. It's the only one in the scale that, or in that key, I guess, that in C here that has its own reflection. We know that 3 will reflect, the Phrygian mode will reflect to the Ionian mode. We saw that initially. We know that the 4th mode reflected with the Locrian mode. Let's look at the 5th mode. So that's G major. Sorry, G, you know, G7, G mixolydian. So if we play that, its reflection, we get, you may recognize that. Looks like the natural minor scale, the Aeolian mode. They blend together quite naturally. They ebb and flow off of each other quite naturally, to my ears, anyways. But they're unusual. They're a little bit unusual. So there's like so many things that can be done with these kinds of things. An idea that I think is kind of interesting is sort of like taking bits and pieces from each, you know, depending on what you're trying to do. you know, for example, let's look at this. If I know that the reflection of the Mixolydian, the Mixolydian mode is the Aeolian mode, you know, I might take, let's say I might play, you know, maybe I'll use the bottom half, you know, that triad, but then borrow, you know, maybe the 7 and 9. Those happen to be the same. It's not a good example. Let's use let's use let's go off the 9th here. If this is the 6th, then this could be the Locrian mode, the relative Locrian mode. So I get a 9, 11, 13. You know, I can start bringing in some of those tones, you know, some of those like upper structures, if you will. I'm basically blending those two triads together. You know, the root, the 3, the 5 from the G Mixolydian, and then I'm playing the 2, the 4, and the 6 of the Aeolian, right? So we can kind of maybe use that, pieces of that. As a means of like stepping away from that sound, or using it as a passing tone to get to that Mixolydian. I keep saying Mixolydian. It's something my brother said to me once. It's deep in there somewhere. Mixolydian. So we can use these to kind of like inject some color into our lines and our ideas, and maybe come up with some like interesting like compositional movements that a little more unorthodox. But yeah, it's kind of fascinating that you know, every mode in our traditional major scale has a pairing, except for the Dorian. And of course, those pairings, you know, they point to like a related key. They're related through a reflection. It's very simple, you know, it's very interesting. So that C one, right? If C major reflects to C Phrygian, well, that means that this G sharp is kind of this key, or this mode, this Ionian mode, is this parallel mode is separated by like a major third distance. Very interesting. So you can kind of like use that as a way to like break away. To come up with lines and whatnot. Anyways, I hope that some of you found that interesting. I think there's like so many applications here. Yeah, stay cool.